The other day you told me that if the situation or the person that you're with doesn't challenge you, then it won't change you. And I have a lot to say about that topic, but I would like for you to explain why it is you hold that position.
I think it's important to recognize that something needs to challenge you in order for you to become the best version of who you should become. If not, you become complacent, you become lazy, stagnant.
Was that in all things? Because like I think a lot of people think, but if people think that, oh, okay, I'll give you an example when it comes to relationships, right? People are like, oh my gosh, things are going, I'm bored. I mean, you ask them like, well, why are you bored?
Because you're not being challenged.
Or things are actually healthy and things are going well. Just because things are going well doesn't mean that somehow they aren't being challenged.
And I don't know, I'm just going to snip it. It depends on the person.
Okay. What kind of person does it require?
If you are not balanced within yourself and you love stimulation, then anything, like the room is too quiet, like our kid, Curtis come downstairs the other day and says to me, he's in the movie room, it's very quiet. I'm like, but you're playing by yourself. But I get it. He needs noise. So think about it now, if we don't tweak that and encourage him to say, silent is also good. You know, there has to be a balance.
There's a balance, yeah.
If you don't try to change that in him and teach him the right thing to do, then any situation that he's in, because of this one thing that he feels...
He does it at nap time in school.
So it's going to be a problem. So before you get into a serious relationship and become bored because the person isn't arguing with you over the toothpaste cover you didn't put back on, or the toilet that you didn't put on the seat, or the dishes in the sink,
slurping of the coffee.
Yeah, that's just you being anal. Anyway.
It's annoying. It's annoying as hell. But okay, fine, whatever.
But the thing is this. That would be considered a pet peeve for you, right? Somebody slurping because you have a sensory issue.
It's also just not good etiquette. Like, you would not be at a restaurant.
I'm in my house. Do I give a shit?
But I give a shit, so you should give a shit.
Well, then wear earplugs. At the end of the day,
where's my AirPods at? Because
I feel again. There go a point again. If you're not comfortable within the space that you're living in with the person that you're supposed to be with, and everything that they say or do bothers you, then you have to evaluate if you're with the right person.
But to go back to the original point, I agree that things should challenge you to become a better person. It should challenge you to think differently, to expand your thinking, to expand your horizons, to try new things, to explore new things together and by yourself. It should encourage you to think a bit differently and more expansively about just how the world works, right? But at the same time, that inherently is a challenge because anything that is different than what you are typically used to can be deemed as a challenge or challenging depending on what the thing is, right?
Depends on if you're lazy.
But I don't know that just because I am challenged by a way that you think or something that you do, that it's going to lead to a change. Maybe the change is I am more...
Wait. Perfect example. Ta-da!
What?
Where we live, what we do.
Okay.
If you were dating somebody else,
okay,
this wouldn't have been.
So you're saying that the reason why we have what we have and where we live is because
we challenge each other to live our best life.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about not everything is inherently challenging.
If you wanted to persuade yourself to say, well, I want to go back to dance, would you have the platform you have now? Would you have the family you have now?
Probably not.
But that's the point.
Right, but you are talking about if it doesn't, you literally said to me the other day, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And I'm having a counter argument where I can see your point, I'm not disagreeing with it, but there are other ways to look at the same situation, right? And so I could see and be challenged by the way that you think about something, the way you do something. It might allow me to understand people differently, but it doesn't change my behavior. It doesn't change the way that I think or naturally are inclined to do things. Some situations will, some situations won't.
Well, there's a lot of things, or I should say a few things.
Like, for example, you challenge me about dishes. If I must do the dishes because you're tired, you're with the kids, you're not home,
Or
of course it has to be,
or I just leave them in the fucking
or you go on strike, then I have to do it. It doesn't change the fact that I don't like to do dishes.
Yeah, but you don't like to do dishes because it's a sensory thing.
Ugh, that's disgusting.
But the bottom line is,
hold on, they're gonna say, "Oh, wear gloves. You're so."
Well, again, you need to conquer your demons, and in one way,
demons.
Yes, it is. In one way to conquer those demons is for me to leave the dishes in the sink, so you end up washing them.
Sorry, I was spilling my coffee.
You're good.
So that's a challenge. It doesn't change. Okay, the change there is the dishes get done. The change,
exactly.
The change is not the fact that I like to do them.
That's the outcome I want.
You want.
Yes.
So you're trying to. So wouldn't that be considered manipulation?
No.
How is that not manipulation?
Because
you're setting the conditions a certain way to get the result that you want.
If I feel you are taking this situation for granted.
The dishes?
Yes.
Okay.
Listen, no matter how busy you get for work, if you're living by yourself and dishes needs to be done, you will figure out a way to do your dishes, do laundry, clean your house.
Paper plates.
Whatever, but you still would have to put out the garbage.
I'll do that. I'm more likely to do that.
How often for the month you put out garbage?
Are you keeping track?
I'm not.
Okay.
But again, I know I'm the one who will wheel that shit to the curb more than you do.
But it gets done.
Because I see something to be done and do it. Because it's within me. It's not a challenge to take and keep our house clean.
Right.
That's within me.
Right.
Now, for some people who goes, I'll get somebody to do it, or I just don't want to do that, that's a choice. Now, if you're dating a person that says there has to be a line drawn in the sand where there's certain days you're going to have to put out the garbage. There are certain days you're going to have to do the dishes. There are certain days you're going to have to mop the bathroom and clean the house. Yes, we can afford to get a cleaner, which we do have. But the bottom line is, between them coming and the next time they come, it's so far between.
Yeah, you still have to clean your house.
Has to be maintained.
Yeah.
Again, how do you then teach your kids the balance of what a clean house looks like?
I just don't want our kids to grow up and think that you have to find a challenge in every situation. There are some things where it is okay to master things, and it is okay to learn from things.
But in order to master it,
challenge you.
In order to master it, the first initial time of doing it,
fair. That's fair, but I don't want them to look for struggle in everything. Now, I want them to embrace struggle.
But they need to recognize struggle will come.
Right, and they have to embrace the struggle and have the tools, have the tools that they need to overcome said struggle. But not every situation that they are going into, they have to be looking for it.
In every relationship, there will be struggle.
Of course, but that's the nature of it.
And that's whether it's a friendship, that's whether it's a relationship that you say boyfriend and girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever the case is, husband and wife. But again, when you use the word struggle, it's for me, the explanation is, if I was by myself, things will get done.
Look, there are some people who literally say, I don't want to be challenged, I'm good. And they stay the hell to themselves. And that's a choice that they make.
Yeah, but
so they surround themselves with people who won't challenge them. They surround themselves, or they date people who they think won't challenge them, or whatever the case is.
But then that becomes boring, right? Because
maybe not for them.
You are complacent within you, and that's being stubborn as well. You become complacent to say, well, I am this way and I'm not changing. That's fine. Excuse me, you might miss your blessing by just being stubborn.
Yeah.
There are things that I know with us, and we don't have enough video footage, tape, space to have that whole discussion. There are things that I know we challenge each other, or because of you being stubborn, or I'm being stubborn, challenge each other to look at the situation differently and compromise, like avoiding the dishes, and I'm saying, all right, I've done all the things in the house that needs to be done. I'm doing yard work, I'm not doing dishes tonight, do the dishes.
Okay, so there's a spectrum of this, right? There are challenges that lead to small changes, incremental changes, big changes, small challenges, big challenges. The dishes, for example, I would view, for us at least, a smaller challenge, right? Compared to where we're going to live, how we're going to raise our kids, how many kids will we have, what are we going to do about finances, what are we going to do, right? So there are, and thinking about money, right? The largest cause of divorce, right? It's usually financial, right? one person abuses money, another person doesn't have financial literacy, one person, so it's a lot of things to do with that. And if you don't open yourself up to thinking about things differently, I can see your point where if you don't challenge yourself to change some of the preconceived notions that you come with, it could lead to a bad outcome.
Because some of those things are learned behavior.
Many of those things are learned behavior.
So daddy was lazy and you saw daddy was more a dictatorship in the house. Honey, pass me a beer. Honey, iron my shirt, I need to go to work.
I wish you would.
All these things that we grew up thinking that was the norm, when it was unhealthy behavior that we were learning, and then get into a relationship with someone going, we going out tonight, right? Iron that shirt on the bed for me. And you're like, I just told you I was gonna go do some stuff for work. You're not doing anything in the house. Why not iron it yourself? But you're processing the thought, but you don't have to figure out a way to say to me, hey, can you do that and I go do this?
Sometimes we fight, and I've been guilty of this. Sometimes you fight though the change, right? Because it's not what you're naturally inclined to do, and it forces you to step outside of yourself for a minute and do something different. And when anytime we as human beings do something different, depending on what that thing is, it's scary because no one likes to fail. No one, I don't think, likes to struggle naturally, and no one likes to not be right? And so you look at those three things, and depending on what the situation is, it could either cause further disruption in your family or your relationship or your household because one person is so unwilling to do anything outside of what they know to do or what they want to do or feel comfortable doing, that it does put a strain on your relationship. On the other end, there are people who are so, whose personalities are so pleasing, if you will, that they will put themselves in situations even if they don't agree with it, even if they don't like it, just to satisfy their partner. And that is also unhealthy.
Part of that, which I was going to interject, part of that is someone's ego, right? The other part, I saw a video recently that the woman was saying that she is submissive to her husband. And people will hear the word submissive and think it's slavery, right? You have to obey. She's like, no, I serve him by rubbing his back before he goes to bed.
But that could be in either direction.
It calms him down.
Right.
No. Folks will be in the same room with their spouse and they're busy on their phone versus interacting with each other.
But what is that? How is that a challenge or a change?
Because if you're used to being by yourself and just want to be by yourself, but then you get caught up in wanting to be in a relationship because you see Tom, Dick, and Harry in a relationship, you now become available on the market to be in a relationship only to not satisfy the individual that choose to date you.
I just think the big ticket item for me always is, if you're going to be with someone or share space with anyone, friend, family, loved one, children, you have to be open to make changes, period. And there are going to be changes that are easy for you to make, and there are going to be changes.
Should I chop that up right there?
Like what?
Before we got kids, you like a clean house. And when one kid came, you start to go, oh my God, the toys and that's there and that.
I don't like clutter. I don't like clutter.
Second kid coming.
Clutter causes me anxiety.
And then the second kid coming into the picture now, and it's a shit show because Curtis has toys all over the floor.
We had a problem last
But
night.
you have to now recognize, is this uncomfortable for you because you like
everything has
order?
a place, everything's in its place. Yes.
The challenge that makes you now have to give up that fight is to say, it's a 4-year-old.
And he needs to be happy.
It's going to be messy.
It's going to be happy. Now,
you learn.
But the compromise, and the blessing, I want to be clear about privilege here, right? Like the blessing is that we have a whole separate place upstairs now. That
but even if we didn't.
He can close the door.
You know how many people live in a 1-bedroom apartment?
No, that's what I'm saying. I
learn
that.
to clean up after themselves.
Yes, but that's what we did last night. I turned it into a lesson, right? I'm challenging myself to do something differently, right?
Instead of pulling out your hair.
The little that I have left, yes. We made it into a situation where we were bonding over cleaning up, right? It was time for go to bed. And I'm like, no, the room needs to be clean before we go to bed. Your chore is you can play all you want to play. When playtime is over, you have to clean up. And so we cleaned up together, right? Now, again, that is challenging me, to the point you made before, to open up my mind to be less rigid about how neat and tidy I want my place to be. Because ultimately, his exploration and his happiness matters more than my quirk about everything being in a neat little box and aesthetically pleasing. But relationships are a little bit different. He's a 4-year-old, right? He's learning and emerging.
It's still a relationship.
It's still a relationship. But at the same time, when it comes to us or anyone else, I just have this visceral reaction to people saying, like, people are like, Love is Blind is the whole thing. You haven't watched it, you don't really care. But some people like to feel, we have some drama today, and that's appealing to them. I've never been.
Sex is what they want.
Not even just that. I've never been someone that wants there to be drama or an argument to feel more connected to somebody, right? And that to me is also just a toxic cycle to be in. However,
but that's a learned behavior.
But challenges and arguments and disagreements are inevitable, right? And as I said before, they could be small, they could be large. In those moments, you're being challenged to think and do something differently. And I agree to that perspective that in order for there to be lasting change after said argument or after said disagreement, there needs to be lessons that are learned in between them so that you don't repeat the same issues or get into the same problems.
We have a platform that, I'm not trying to get us canceled, but let's call a spade a spade. There's so many times we get caught up in what the friends that we run with thinks. And I realize most of those friends, even if they last forever, very few you probably can count on one hand. But you spend hours and years spending money that you didn't have to fit in a circle that you will never be in 20 years down the road.
Yeah, but to bring this back, like the many times that you and I see eye to eye on this challenge to change challenge to change perspective and journey, and we see it happen with you, right? And it's not something that goes unnoticed, and we wish we could respond to every single comment, but we see the comments about, changing my perspective either on homosexuality in and of itself. People who are really deeply rooted in the church have had their own journeys to acceptance, or people who just haven't seen this before, right? Our content reaches all parts of the world and places where homosexuality is illegal, the act is illegal and punishable by lots of different tactics, I should say, are starting to recognize the that being different or having differences is not a bad thing. And
but I also think for those individuals who are in danger, based on where you live, for you to become authentic or be open,
but sometimes it's not possible.
You have to again show restraint. Sometimes you cannot want to kick down the door. Sometimes you have to crack the window and crawl in through the window. Baby steps, because at the end of the day, it's a life and death situation.
Safety matters.
So that for me, in spite of they say they like what we have, we're living, thank God, in a space where we can, to some extent,
although
enjoy some of it.
Where we live now, shit.
But, and that's the other thing I need to say. Wherever you're living in this country, in America, it's important for us LGBTQ plus, if I said that right.
You did.
To get involved in the political arena, both local
and at the federal level.
If you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything, including them telling you who you can love, how you can love. I heard them come up with this thing now where they're trying to ban these books and burn these books because they had
trying to come up. There are several, right? There are several authors whose books are banned. You can't talk about being gay, right? And this goes to the challenge to change thing, right? And so we have to challenge the perspectives that people have about us, families like ours, in order to bring about change for our kids, because ultimately they're the ones inheriting this world. At some point we're going to go, right? And we're not going to be here forever. And our kids are going to inherit our mess. And how do we teach them to advocate for themselves?
I think as parents, and you started this when we got Timothy.
I did.
Bringing in books with black authors and characters and in the house.
Gay characters, intersex characters,
and I think
all of it.
It's not about a gay thing, because again, contrary to some people's ignorance belief, There's no gay agenda from this platform or most platforms.
Is there even a gay agenda?
People are just trying to live their authentic self.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, the world is more diverse than we want to accept, especially the ones who are secretively in the closet fantasizing about men, but yet still trying to write legislation to ban certain things. It's necessary for us to take control of how other perceive us to be, right? Meaning you walk upright, you walk with your face held high, you walk with some pride. You don't have to become so much toxic and dramatic. Just be, again, kind. Kind to those around you, kind to yourself. And then with the tools that you have on the internet or the library or wherever you need to order these books, create a small library, especially if you're in the LGBT community and you have kids. Your kids needs to be more well-rounded than we were growing up.
So I would challenge our mindsets to be complacent and to advocate the best way we know how. And for advocacy starts at home,
Yes.
right? It's not something that you can go out with the bullhorn and shout. Yes, that is advocacy to some degree too, but advocacy is walking the walk at home to show yourself and your children.
And just go back to what we were saying.
Yeah.
You might be uncomfortable because you don't want to do the work.
It's very uncomfortable. Also, no one wants to, look, there are people who advocate by supporting causes that they feel are near and dear to their hearts, that matter to them, but they're not going to be publicly vocal about something. That is advocacy, and not everyone is going to take the vocal approach, and that's actually okay.
But we need more to be involved.
Yes.
Don't be on the sidelines cheering. We don't need a cheerleader on the sidelines. Get your ass in the game and change it, because at the end of the day, again, if you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything. And for us, we are now more involved to some extent, not as much as I think we
could
should.
be more involved.
But
Good.
I think we're doing more than some. But again,
But not as
forget
much as
about
we
the
should.
some. We need to make sure that we're living up to our full potential as parents, as individuals, that when we close our eyes and go meet our maker, at the end of the day, we know we left a legacy behind that nobody can take away.
No one could take away. Cheers to that. This is coffee, and it's probably cold, but, oh, Jesus.